I had gone to the mall with my childhood friend Sarah. We had actually been catching up. I never had many friends in school, and in high school me and her never had the same classes, and life outside of school for me was mostly sleep. So this was as good a time as any for us to catch up. Sarah was petite, small and skinny, but I'd never call her frail. I was a tall, heavy-set dude with a bad limp. She would often joke that she felt safer with me because I looked like a big scary bear and the limp made me look like a badass who always won. She knew I hated being seen as scary, but would often tease, and this mall walk would be no different. After about 2 hours of walking around, we had been leaving Hot Topic when I felt like I was being watched. I finally caught eye of some guy in sunglasses, a tan shirt, gray jacket, and black dress shoes looking at us from across the center of the mall. The most offsetting thing was him. He was clean cut, clean shave, short black hair. Everything about him screamed official, but his clothes looked like he had grabbed them off the floor and tossed them on. At first I thought he was a cop in regular attire and that I had once again been falsely accused of stealing. Little background, the owner of the mall's Walden Books had talent a strong disliking to me after I accidentally busted their theft sensors 2 years prior by falling over onto one stupidly distracted talking to another person. But he never said anything nor got close to us to try and stop us. I decided I wanted to see what he was really up to and lead us into Sears. Sure enough, he followed. I didn't tell Sarah about him, but made a decision. There was a hall to our left for restrooms down by the service bays and waiting room, and a good 12 or so feet ahead was electronics. I asked Sarah to wait for me by electronics while I went to the bathroom. There, now I'd know for sure as we had passed the hall this would mean I'd have to turn around and walk towards him a bit, then down the hall. His pace slowed a bit when he saw us splitting up. I glared him down as I came his way, and then turned down the hall pretending to look at my phone, using it as a mirror. He clearly looked at me as his head turned, but he continued straight on past the hall. I turned into the bathroom doorway, and as soon as he was beyond view of the hall, I turned around. My turn, I muttered to myself and laughed a bit. I felt like a kid playing spy. I had guessed that this guy might notice me, so I came out of the hall and made my way towards tools. The tool selection wasn't separated by any walls, but just by the walkway, giving me a clear view and cover behind toolboxes and shelves. He was following Sarah now, but still keeping a good distance. What annoyed me about this was Sarah never got the feeling of being watched and looked over like I had. In fact, both times she looked at him had been only as turning to look around the store. Now I needed to know, but I wasn't going to cause a scene, or so I thought. I walked over from tools. Sarah saw me coming and joined me. We went back into the mall and then headed for a mall exit. Sarah had started to ask me why we weren't heading towards our cars, but a simple hand motion from me cut the question out. We walked outside. He was a considerable bit behind us, so I rushed us through the 2 sets of doors, giving them time to close. We walked to the edge of the overhang and stopped. I explained everything while pretending to look for our cars, then turned around. In the area between the doors there he stood, and now he had no way to avoid both of us seeing him directly. We walked back in, and he had turned, standing against the side wall. I now stood in front of him. "What's up, Chief?" I asked, mocking a cop. Not a smart idea, but if he was a cop or even mall security, then he'd now have to call me out. He wouldn't look directly at either of us. "Gonna say I stole something? I've been minding my own fucking business. How about you mind yours?" I was now projecting at him, but he said nothing, and even having raised my arms at him, he didn't move and didn't look at either of us. I opened the next door and waved Sarah through, stopping the door almost touching his face. Sarah had hurried on ahead. I stepped through, and the next few seconds remained frozen in my mind. He sighed, almost as if relieved I hadn't hit him with the door. I walked in and took a slow pace. Sure enough, he followed. However, he hadn't noticed that I was now walking backwards. I backed right into him, and my upper arm caught the feeling of a holster under his arm as we bumped into each other. An MD at the time, concealed carry by civilians, wasn't legal. I now knew something was entirely out of place. I was pissed off, but I was also lucky as mall security rounded the corner to the exit. "Gun. He's got a gun," I yelled. He backed away from me as mall security came running up with a taser drawn. "She's lucky you're so annoying," he had muttered as he continued back towards the exit, and mall security followed. I didn't stick around to find out anything. I ran for Sarah, grabbed her wrist, and took off through the mall towards the security office. The head of security in the office was not exactly thrilled to see me, but was aware of what had gone on. Apparently they had been watching since we entered Sears, and the tapes showed them that this man had been following Sarah since she parked and had actually only started trying to hide himself when she met up with me. The most unreal part of all of this, though, they caught him but released him when he produced an official government ID and number. To me, I don't care if he was God himself. This isn't the type of behavior you just let slide. When I was 3 years old, I lived in Ohio and was what we called the happy child. Rarely cried, always smiled, loved to talk to people, etc. I also looked really fucking adorable. Short red hair, green eyes, loved wearing a yellow polka dot dress with Minnie Mouse pins. I also had a really high-pitched squeaky voice. I wouldn't say it was annoying, but you could definitely tell if I was talking and what I had to say. That's really important to keep in mind. It was sometime in the summer. My dad worked at a DVD company before the days of Netflix, so it was just mommy and me time. On this particular day, my mom took me to the mall to shop around since she was expecting a baby boy. And me, being the happy little kid I was, came with her to help, which was just to run around stores, look at toys and stuff kids do. When we got to the Gap, I was really bored and was starting to get cranky. But my mom said if I was good I would get to go to Build-A-Bear, and to a 3-year-old, that place is like fucking heaven. So I decided to sit at the front of the store and pretend to be a mannequin. My mom was cool with it, since she wasn't that far away, and people walking by smiled and waved at me. That is until I saw a creepy guy. The way this certain mall was set up, there were benches in front of certain stores near small carts that sold random things and trash bins. Well, this bench faced directly at the Gap, and usually moms would sit there with strollers and try to calm down their screaming kids. But this guy, he just sat on the end of the bench and stared directly at me and was looking me over. This dude was the most disgusting man I have ever seen in my life. Long, greasy, unkempt black hair, dark green torn and stained shirt, ripped and dirty jeans, long greasy beard. This dude was fucking gross. But me, being the friendly 3-year-old I was, waved and smiled at him. He smiled the most creepy smile, and I can remember how yellow his teeth were as he waved at me. At this point, I didn't feel scared or threatened. I just thought that a nice man smiled at me. I then climbed out from the mannequin area, I literally don't know what it's called, and was about to go to my mom when I heard him behind me. "Hey sweetie, what's your name?" I quickly turned around and saw this dude, now kneeling at my height, smiling at me. My name is along the lines of what I probably said, "Nice to meet you, my name." "How old are you?" he said, and me not seeing what was wrong with this told him my age. "Wow, 3? That's really cool. Say, do you like candy?" Now I'm older, I really facepalm at knowing that this dude was using the whole candy shtick, and that I was actually falling for it. "Yeah, I like chocolate and gummy bears and lollipops." Again, I don't remember word for word what I said, but it was along these lines. "Oh really? Me too. Say, the candy store has tons of gummy bears. Why don't you come with me and pick out all the candy you want?" It was then he stood up and held his hand out for me, and innocent little me gladly took his hand and began to jump around excitedly. But as soon as my hand was in his, my heart sank and my excitement immediately died. This dude began to drag me out by my hand until I hear the best thing that I could hear in that moment: "Hey fucker, get the hell away from my kid." My mom screamed. At this point, I think literally everyone's heads turned toward my mom. I have never seen my mom so pissed and ready to kill in my life, but at that moment she went into Mama Bear mode. My mom told me that the man looked down at me, looked back at my mom before letting my hand go and running hell out of the store. My mom literally ran to me and pulled me into the tightest hug a very pregnant woman can do, and by then, security had come and started searching the whole mall. But by then, he was long gone. Me and my family were on holiday, and we were doing some clothes shopping in the mall. We had driven for a fair amount of time, so we all decided to stop at the bathrooms. As per usual, the girls' toilets have a queue, whereas the male toilets had no line. So me and my mom were waiting in line while my younger brother had gone in, finished, and gone outside to wait. My brother was outside on his own for around 5 minutes. He is 15, so this is no problem at all. When we come out, we all head off to go to another shop when we hear a man shouting at my brother aggressively. We all turn around, and this man was poking my brother in the chest, getting up in his face, and shouting things at him like, "You need to get that shit off your phone," and "You're a sicko." Visibly, my brother is confused, and with him being pretty much the sweetest guy you could meet, me and my mom knew that whatever this guy is accusing him of, he has something wrong. Eventually, we get the guy go calm down and explain what is going on. He starts spouting off about how that game he is playing hurts me, and he is causing damage. He is a sicko. This is where my mom stepped in to try and figure out what game it was and what he was doing. The guy couldn't tell us, which was red flag number 1, and it is where this encounter began to go from creepy to unnerving. How come he can't tell us what game is hurting him, or tell us anything about it? He starts pulling at his trouser legs and showing us his legs, pointing at them, saying, "This is what people like you have done to me." I try and show the doctors, but they send me to psych every time. The thing is, there was nothing wrong with this dude's legs at all. They were normal-looking legs with no sign of harm or injury, as this man was saying. Me and my mom kind of look at each other with an "are you seeing this too" kind of look, as we both thought we were missing something major. He then starts to almost threaten us with, "I could have a hammer and I could attack you right now. In fact, I should, because of what you did to me." The hammer thing goes on for a while. He gestures hitting my brother across the face with a hammer for most of it. Eventually, we managed to leave by just apologizing and walking away quickly. It seemed like going along with this guy's accusations would make him stop harassing us. It made me really sad, because obviously this man needed help that he was not getting, and it has left my brother slightly terrified about going places without us nearby.